Hello my fellow freedom builders and welcome back to the channel. Today we are gonna have a look at some weed stocks, some cannabis, because I keep getting questions about it from my viewers here and saying, well Hans, isn't it about time we started to invest in cannabis again? And today I'm gonna have a broad look out on the sector. I'm gonna tell you why I never put money into it. It might have been a bit of a limit in my thinking. But I'm going to look at the basic case and then we're going to look at some technical analysis. So I'm not going to dive into one single company, but there are actually a couple of cannabis stocks I can promise you'll get in the end of the video that already they are showing some decent buy signals. So you'll get a couple of candidates if you want to enter into this sector. Now, first of all, the reason why I don't invest in cannabis stocks in contrary to a lot of other investors is that I don't think it is a very lucrative business. Now, as you can see here, we have Aurora Cannabis. That was one of the early movers out here, and you can see that it had some huge gains. A lot of people ask me, why aren't you getting into cannabis? You can see 800,000%. It looks completely like the EV stocks, the electrical vehicle, the hydrogen. It looks like Bitcoin. It looks like all sorts of other stuff here with the rise in price we had back here. This is the picture of a hype bubble. You can see actually here down from in 16 here we had over a year and a half or so 2200 points or percent in gain. Now, why didn't I go in? People said, well, they are legalizing cannabis all over the world, Hans. Why aren't you jumping in? And just because a lot of people are using a product doesn't mean that it will be a good business producing it. That is an important sentence, so I'll repeat it. Just because a lot of people are using a product doesn't mean that that you can make a profit by producing it. Let's say, for instance, that we have smartphones. Now, if you want to produce a new smartphone and you want to compete with Apple and Samsung and all of the companies producing smartphones, it would cost you a fortune to enter that market if you were completely new. You would have to come up with billions and billions and billions of dollars, maybe 10 or 20 billion dollars just to get a product on the street. Now, what about cannabis? Well, all you pretty much need is a big glass house and some cannabis, some weed plants, and some heat and some white gloves, a bit of other stuff. I think you can come up and running with, I don't know, somewhere between 20 and 50 million dollars. So that is quite cheap to get started in the cannabis sector. That means that the second that a lot of US states started to legalizing the usage of cannabis, we saw hundreds of companies entering into this scene. So that made me think that it would be hard to sell all of the weed they would harvest in the future, and that is exactly what has happened. A lot of the companies have gone bankrupt already, and we're going to have a look at the charts today to see how it went for many of these stocks. But it's just to remember that sometimes you can choose to use what is called a qualitative fundamental analysis, saying, I simply don't see that there is a profitable way to produce this in the future. Well, then some of you might say, that is just recreational cannabis. There's also the medical grade cannabis. And yes, there is. The problem is that there's pretty much no decent research right now showing any cure whatsoever with some sort of cannabis product. It cannot cure, I know some people say it can, but there's no evidence that it can cure cancer or all of the stuff that is promised that it can cure. So until they have some decent cures with cannabis products, I don't see a market for medical cannabis. Alright, so let's have a look at some of the stocks here. Now, what I'm going to show you here is just my basic strategy. And if you haven't seen that before, I have a playlist. I'll put a link to it below here where I tell about my strategy in detail. There are no secrets here. All I pretty much look for is trends. So what I'm looking for is I want the RSI to be above 50, meaning that we have a decent uptrend. This is on a weekly chart. I want the CRS indicator here to be above the 2 moving averages, meaning that the gray line here has to be above the 2 colored lines. That means that the stock is doing better than the overall market. In this case, SPY, the ETF for S&P 500. So the second it goes below here and below here, we get a red arrow. I just put a couple of red arrows in here so you can see how it played out. Now, I would have gotten in here. I got some decent buy signals back in 17. We're looking at Aurora Cannabis. It's shot straight up, and we would have gotten out somewhere here if we were only looking at the weekly chart. But I am timing my trades on the daily chart, so it would probably have been a bit before. Now, what we can see here, and people asking me, aren't we soon to go into cannabis again? It is getting so cheap. Now, the funny thing here is that people saying that a stock is cheap and wanting to get in, I understand the concept, because the mental part is that we have been taught all our life that if we need to do some good business, we need to buy in the cheap end and sell in the expensive end. But what we are actually saying here is that we have no way of knowing when something is cheap, and especially in a new market, in a new sector with a new product. When is something cheap in the cannabis sector? Of course, we can see if they're making money, but none of them are really making any money right now. When the hype was really going on, I saw the Canopy Growth stock was trading at a PE ratio of something like 4,000. I haven't seen that since the tech bubble in 2000. So that was some really crazy hype going on there. But as you can see, the Aurora Cannabis, it gave us some permission to look at the daily chart. I'm saying here when I'm seeing a buy signal, the green zone signal here on the weekly chart, I get quote unquote permission to look at the daily chart to see if we can find some good timing entries here. So we could have gotten in somewhere around in the 80 area. We could have gotten out here in summer 19 here, around the 90, 95 area, and it has not been close to giving us a buy signal ever since. So just using a simple trend system would have gotten you out around here, 87. Let's just put a line in here if we can. Here, and you would have missed or at least avoided all the turn down here to around 10. I know sometimes we get a sell signal and it gets straight up, but that is a little price to pay to be able to avoid these huge downturns. This is one of the reasons why my strategy is doing fairly well also in years like this with big crashes, because I get out early. Let's have a look at some of the other stocks here. We're just looking at the weekly chart here. We can see Afria here also gone up from around $1 and was up at $25 and shot down again, and a lot of people got in around here in the middle of the hype and got burned really badly. We got our sell signals on the weekly chart here. We got a couple, one here as well and one here. So there was a lot of other sell signals we could look at here. But since April 19, we would not have touched this one as well. So no, we're not anywhere near getting a buy signal. We have Canopy Growth Corporation, and they just got the numbers out. There were some entry signals a couple of times here in 19. We got our sell signal here in June 19. Do you start to see a pattern here? That's a good thing when you go through the entire market and the sectors chart by chart once in a while, because you get a feeling of the themes running in the in different sectors. And here in the summer 19, I was advising everybody that asked me what I would do. I was saying, well, if it was my money, I would consider selling the cannabis stock. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor, but sometimes people ask me if I would do if it was my money. I never give specific buy and sell signals or something like that. However, this one went from around $40-45 and was down at $8. So is it about to give us a buy signal? Well, let's have a look. It is fairly close to get above the 50 line here, and on the CRS, well, it's not in a buy signal now, but if it wouldn't take much, maybe up to 20 or 25 when the market was going maybe a bit down or sideways, we would get a good green buy signal, and then we could start to consider if the fundamentals showed us something that we would look at. But just realize that here I'm not looking at the fundamentals. I'm simply seeing that when we on a weekly chart are having a downtrend and it is underperforming the market, it must mean with huge stocks that a lot of the large players are moving out of the market. And no matter how good the case is for a stock, it can have the best fundamentals in the world. If I can see that all the big elephants in the field are running in this direction downwards, I do not want to own the stock. I only want to own the stock when all the big elephants are running in the right direction, meaning north. All right, let's have a look at here. Kronos, maybe you remember that. Got some great buy signals here in 18. Could have made a killing if we didn't care about the sector. Got a sell signal here in April, May 19. And we're sent straight back, and we have not been anywhere near a buy signal since. Namaste. Yeah, as you can see, went from a top here in 4.4 and is right now down in 25 cents or something like that. We got our sell signal here. We actually got a little buy signal here on a weekly chart, but on the daily chart there was not really anything to go for here. And then we got our sell signal again, and it has been cut in half ever since. So this is just basic looking at the trend. Tilray, oh no. You look here, this really got in right at the right time, around August 18, and it went from 28 to 200. Yeah, it made 1,000% in a month or something like that. It was completely crazy. And for those of you laughing at this and saying, yeah, haha, who would have believed this? Well, have a look at some of the EV stocks right now, not making a cent in profit, but still going up 500 or 1,000%. This was the exact same case. And those of you saying, no, that was a different case because this is green energy. Yeah, well, this was green cannabis, and the hype, the psychology is exactly the same. We would have gotten out at least here at 7 missing or avoiding a 90% drop in price. Harvest Health, that is also a company that has some cannabis, and we can see here in May 19, got out around 9, it went down to $0.6 or so. It is slowly moving back, and it might start an uptrend, we never know, but we could draw some lines here and saying, yes, it might be actually breaking a line here. And it might be possible in some month or half a year or something like that for it to make some sort of pattern here that could result in us getting a green signal and a good pattern, and we could enter if we believed in it. All right, Village Farms here, I believe that they are not only a cannabis stock. I think they also do some other vegetables, tomatoes and stuff. And what we can see here is actually that they have gone up in the good above 50 zone here. And it is very close. If not, let's just have a look. Yeah, it's just tipping up. So this is actually getting into the green zone. So if we're looking at Village Farms here, I think that is on the stock exchange both in Canada and United States, if I'm not completely wrong here. And what we can see here is again that it has had a big downturn. We did avoid the big downturn here. Then it shot up, had a bit of a retracement, and it actually went into a green zone here. So if you want to get into this sector, Village Farms could be something that you would have a look at. If we're looking at the daily chart here, we can actually see a very nice pattern here, and that is that we are getting up. We are above the 200 SMA that comes here. It goes down, bounces on the 50 SMA, gets up, and right now we have the 20, the 50 and the 200 SMA in the right direction, and it seems like it is respecting the 20 SMA. So this could be a play you could take. This is actually also a formation named as the cup with handle. It is a bit skewed here, but it looks like a cup with handle, and if this upper line of the cup is broken, this could be quite a good formation to get in on. So Village Farms could be somewhere to get in if you wanted to. TerraScend is actually another one. As you can see here, I put my my up arrow on a couple of weeks ago here. We got the green signal where all the indicators indicated that we were in an uptrend. Remember that all an indicator does is to indicate. It never tells us 100% truth. It never tells us exactly how far it will go up. It pretty much just gives us a better visual of what is going up on up here. And right now here, a couple of weeks ago, it told us, yes, it might be time to look into TerraSend here. And that means, of course, that bar here needs to finish. But I would not have gotten in here yet. This is where the week started, that we got the up signal on. But I would wait, if I were to go into TerraSend, I would wait for the 20 SMA to come up here. The price get down here, respect the 20 SMA and show some buyer strength. Then TerraSend could be a possibility. Again, I'm not giving you financial advice here. I'm just saying if you want to get into cannabis stock, then there are a few of the stocks that are starting to show some decent graphs here. Now, some of you might know these stocks better. I'm absolutely no expert. So some of you might know TerraSend and know exactly why it has done made this formation. And you can write that in the comment section below if you know anything about these stocks that is worth knowing. I'm just looking at the psychology in the market right now, and TerraSend is pointing upwards. Now, here is an interesting stock, and it is actually a REIT. A real estate paper, and I did make a video about real estate papers, the REITs, a couple of weeks ago. But what we can see here is that we have a company, or a company that has specialized in making real estate for cannabis sector, meaning that they are building ready to move into greenhouses and with all the setup that you need real estate wise to move in and start production. And then they are renting that out to the cannabis producers, and that's actually quite a neat business model. I do like it. Of course, they took a huge downturn here along with the rest of the cannabis sector, but they actually found a bottom here in March this year, and they have started to climb up. And that might show us that there's something moving in the cannabis sector that can't be seen in too many of the stocks yet. But this indicates that they are either good businessmen, so they can use their greenhouses for something else, or that there's actually a beginning rise in demand when it comes to cannabis real estate. Now, what we got here was we got our first buy signal here in June, a couple of months ago, and we have made this little triangle formation here. And actually, now I was not aware of it at that time. That was only for my research here. I saw this one, but as you can see, the exact same pattern. We get up above the 200 SMA. The 20 and the 50 are aligned here in the right direction. We get up, we bounce at the 20 SMA, and from that up until now, just in a couple of weeks, 1.5 weeks, we have gotten somewhere around 15-16% rise up here. It can easily retrace, and you can start looking for all sorts of things. Maybe you're looking for some earlier tops here that can bounce on, or something like that. If we get an earlier top combined with the 20 SMA coming up here, and it gets down and bounces and get up, then that could be a very, very good way to enter. I'm actually not even sure how much dividend this REIT is paying, but you can investigate that for yourself. Now, if you want to get into this industry and you don't want to pick just one stock, then there are different ETFs, and we have one called the MJ here. And as you can see the very nice picture of the entire cannabis sector here. With these two, with this double arrow here, I got two sell signals, and that was again back in May 19, telling us, well, for at least the last year, maybe 15 months here, the cannabis sector has, as an overall, with this ETF as a picture of it, not been the place to put your money. Now, some of you might say, well, we think that it'll come up, so that's why we have kept our money in there. We have bought and hold. And that is okay, that's fine if that works for you. The thing is that in these 15 months, I have been able to make a ton of money just putting my money in other stocks that were going up and showing signs of strength. So buying here and hoping that this ETF will come up, that is somewhat of a long shot, I think. And I would never do that. As soon as the stock starts to show my red trend signal and start to turn down, I'm out. No matter what, no matter how much I believe in the company, if it shows me that the big guys in the market don't want to own the stock anymore, I certainly don't want to own the stock neither. I do not pretend that I know more than the clever guys in the market. And when I can see the weekly chart starts to turn downwards, I know that the guys that know more than me, they are selling. So I don't want to be in a stock that the big guys are selling, meaning that I would definitely have gotten out here. The MJ here, the ETF, is nowhere near getting a green signal, so I would not be concerned of looking at that. So as you can see, this is an overall view of the cannabis sector. There are a few potential candidates here that you might want to have a look at, but overall I can say that they are in a red zone, most of them. 80-90% of the stocks in the cannabis sector are in the red zone. I would not touch them with a 10-foot pole, nowhere near in the near future here. So I cannot advise you on what you should do with your money, but I can advise you that you look at the overall trend and don't get suckered into a hype. That goes for EVs, that goes for the cannabis sector, that goes for 3D printing some 5-6 years ago, that goes for the tech stocks in the 90s, that goes for Bitcoin and so on. You can easily get into them, but please look at the trend. And when you can see that the trend starts to bend, as I say, the trend is your friend until it bends or ends. When you can see that the trend starts to move over, then take your money off the table. You can always get in again if it turns up, and then you miss some percentages here. But again, you avoid these huge blowouts of different stocks. So that is my advice to you, if I should give any. Take care of yourself and your money out there. Remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you like the content. That's all for now. Talk to you again soon. Bye.